Welcome to the world of AEON STRATUM Prime, or ASP, a groundbreaking theoretical framework that challenges our deepest assumptions about spacetime, inertia, and propulsion. Developed by Colonel James Hartman and the Three Brothers Colonel Band in northwest Indiana, ASP proposes that the dynamics of spacetime and motion can be engineered by manipulating the vacuum itself, not by pushing against it. Instead of relying on traditional force exchange mechanisms, ASP introduces a stratified, time-indexed vacuum field architecture. This approach could fundamentally change how we think about energy, inertia, and even the possibility of propellantless propulsion. Let's embark on this journey to explore the core ideas and implications of ASP. At the heart of ASP lies a radical assertion. The quantum vacuum is not temporally uniform. Instead, vacuum energy density and stress tensors vary as a function of proper time phase, especially under engineered boundary conditions and dynamic temporal modulation. This means that by carefully controlling the temporal aspects of the vacuum, it's possible to influence physical phenomena in ways previously thought impossible. This foundational idea opens the door to new forms of propulsion and energy manipulation. ASP introduces the temporal vacuum stress tensor, or TVST, as its formal field object. This tensor, denoted as T mu nu tau omega, is calculated as an expectation value over finite time windows, not just static spatial slices. Here, tau represents the proper temporal phase, and omega is the vacuum mode frequency. By replacing informal ether concepts with this rigorous, relativistically compatible construct, ASP provides a solid mathematical foundation for its claims. This approach ensures compatibility with both quantum field theory and general relativity. One of ASP's most revolutionary claims is the possibility of translation, movement, without the need for reaction mass. According to the AEON translation condition, a temporal gradient in vacuum energy density produces a real force term. Momentum conservation is satisfied through vacuum field exchange, meaning no propellant needs to be expelled. This reframes propulsion as a process of field redistribution, not traditional thrust, opening the door to entirely new forms of spacecraft movement. ASP also proposes a novel mechanism for modulating inertia. The inertial coupling coefficient, denoted as alpha I, shows that inertia becomes field-dependent. Acceleration response varies with vacuum stratification, which could explain the extreme maneuverability of certain theoretical craft without subjecting them to destructive structural stress. This insight could have profound implications for the design of future aerospace vehicles. ASP's lenticular craft are composed of several major subsystems. These include temporal vacuum oscillator rings, dynamic Casimir boundary lattices, a central inertial isolation capsule, a vacuum stress translation envelope, and a phase-coherent power distribution spine. Each subsystem plays a critical role in managing the complex field interactions required for ASP's unique mode of propulsion and inertia control. ASP isn't just theoretical, it supports near-term experimental analogues. These include time-modulated Casimir cavities, superconducting vacuum oscillators, precision inertial mass variation tests, and vacuum noise asymmetry measurements. Importantly, these experiments do not require exotic materials or violations of known physics at early stages, making ASP a practical framework for immediate research and development. Compared to earlier Chronoaether-based work, AEON STRATUM Prime is more mathematically defined, more falsifiable, and more relevant to propulsion. It's also more publishable and defensible against criticism. While Chronoaether-Ω is retained as a legacy phenomenological layer, ASP's rigorous structure marks a significant leap forward, positioning it as a credible foundation for future research and aerospace innovation. The original concept, system integration, and architecture of ASP are credited to Colonel James Hartman, with creative and technical affiliation to the Three Brothers Colonel Band. The project's geographic origin is Northwest Indiana, USA. All prior projects, including Chronoaether-Ω, AEON Lambda concepts, and Lenticular craft studies, are formally subsumed under AEON STRATUM Prime, unifying a decade of research and development. Chapter I of the ASP report lays the ontological and physical foundation of the Chronoaether framework. Its main goal is to define the medium itself, what chronoaether is, how it differs from classical ether, and how it emerges from modern physics. Only by rigorously answering these questions can the mathematical operators and tensors introduced in later chapters be meaningfully applied. Classical luminiferous ether failed as a scientific concept due to three fatal assumptions. It was absolute, not relativistic, spatially static, not temporally dynamic, and detectable by linear motion, not phase interaction. The famous Michelson-Morley experiment disproved the existence of a static spatial ether, but did not rule out a time-indexed vacuum structure. Modern physics has quietly reintroduced ether-like concepts under new names, such as quantum vacuum, zero-point energy, and the Higgs field. The paradox is clear. Physics rejects the term ether while relying on a structured vacuum for many phenomena. Concepts like quantum vacuum, zero-point energy, vacuum polarization, and dark energy all point to a medium that behaves much like the old ether, but with a modern twist. Chronoaether resolves this paradox by providing a time-structured field continuum that is compatible with relativity. Chronoaether is defined as a relativistically invariant, temporally structured vacuum continuum. In this framework, energy, time, and causality are phase-coupled rather than spatially transporting. Chronoaether exists between time slices, not as a spatial medium, and responds only to temporal phase gradients, boundary conditions, and vacuum stress anisotropy. It operates across scales from the tiniest Planck time to the vastness of cosmological horizons. In traditional physics, time is treated as a coordinate. Chronoaether, however, treats time as a field dimension with its own energy density. This means time can have local curvature independent of space, and temporal compression or dilation can store or release energy. The directionality of time, the arrow of time, is seen as an emergent statistical preference, not a fundamental law. This reframes the energy-time uncertainty principle as a mechanism, not a limitation. A key insight of chronoaether is that energy does not move through time. Instead, time modulates the availability of energy. Temporal compression increases energy density, while temporal dilation decreases it. This perspective shifts our understanding of energy-time uncertainty and opens new avenues for manipulating energy by controlling temporal structures. The vacuum is far from empty. It exhibits measurable Casimir forces, virtual particle emergence, vacuum polarization near mass and charge, and observable dark energy acceleration. Chronoaether unifies these phenomena under a single principle. Vacuum energy density varies with temporal boundary geometry. Casimir plates, for example, act as temporal filters, excluding certain modes and forcing the chronoaether to rebalance, which in turn produces force. In chronoaether theory, Casimir boundaries function as temporal frequency filters and zero-point mode selectors. When boundary conditions differ across a structure, a temporal gradient forms, manifesting as force on the microscale, inertia modification on the mesoscale, and apparent gravity-like curvature on the macroscale. This suggests that even gravity itself may be interpreted as a persistent large-scale chronoaether gradient. Chronoaether obeys a core law: energy density and temporal density are reciprocally conserved. Where time is compressed, energy density increases. Where time expands, energy density decreases. This principle underlies phenomena such as inertial mass, relativistic time dilation, event horizon behavior, and even the possibility of propulsion without reaction mass. It's a unifying concept that ties together many aspects of modern physics. A crucial strength of chronoaether is its compatibility with both special and general relativity. It has no preferred inertial frame, cannot be detected by velocity, and interacts only via gradients and phase differentials. Relativity governs how observers measure chronoaether effects, not whether the field exists. This ensures that ASP's framework remains consistent with established physical laws. Einstein eliminated the concept of absolute space, but not structured time. Chronoaether builds on this legacy by proposing that time itself can have structure and curvature, independent of space. This subtle but profound shift allows for new interpretations of energy, inertia, and motion, all while staying within the bounds of relativity. Although Chapter I does not derive propulsion mechanisms, it establishes why advanced propulsion becomes possible within the chronoaether framework. Inertia is seen as resistance from time, not just mass. Force arises from temporal imbalance, not from expelling mass. Motion can occur by locally rephasing time, meaning a craft doesn't need to push against space, it only needs to create and fall into its own time gradient. Chapter I's summary is clear. The vacuum is a time-structured field. Chronoaether replaces obsolete spatial ether models. Casimir effects are temporal boundary phenomena. Energy and time are reciprocally conserved. Relativity remains intact, and propulsion becomes theoretically admissible. This chapter defines the existence and nature of the medium, setting the stage for deeper mathematical and experimental exploration in future chapters. AEON STRATUM Prime represents a mature evolution from speculative narrative to structured theoretical architecture. It preserves visionary scope while enforcing scientific discipline, positioning the project as a credible foundation for future chapters, experimental proposals, and advanced aerospace conceptual systems. ASP is not just a theory, it's a roadmap for the next generation of physics and engineering. Chapter I of the ASP report is structured around three foundational questions. What is chronoaether? Why does modern physics implicitly require it? And how does it manifest physically without violating relativity? By answering these, ASP lays the groundwork for the rigorous mathematical treatment that follows in later chapters. Classical ether failed because it assumed an absolute, spatially static medium detectable by linear motion. Modern experiments like Michelson, Morley disproved this, but left open the possibility of a time-indexed vacuum structure. ASP leverages this opening to propose a new temporally structured medium that aligns with both quantum and relativistic physics. Despite rejecting the term ether, modern physics relies on concepts like quantum vacuum, zero-point energy, and the Higgs field. These are, in essence, structured vacuums that fulfill many of the roles once attributed to ether, but with a modern, relativistically compatible twist. ASP's Chronoaether framework brings these ideas into a coherent, testable structure. Chronoaether is not a substance, but a field of temporal potential. It exists between time slices, cannot be detected by inertial translation, and responds only to temporal phase gradients, boundary conditions, and vacuum stress anisotropy. Its influence spans from the tiniest Planck time to the largest cosmological horizons, making it a truly universal medium. Chronoaether treats time as a field dimension with local curvature, independent of space. Temporal compression stores energy, while temporal dilation releases it. The arrow of time is not a fundamental law, but an emergent statistical preference. This reframing has profound implications for our understanding of energy, causality, and the very fabric of reality. In the Chronoaether framework, energy-time uncertainty is not a limitation but a mechanism. Time modulates the availability of energy, and by controlling temporal structures, it may be possible to manipulate energy in new ways. This insight could lead to breakthroughs in both fundamental physics and practical engineering. The vacuum structure is revealed through observable effects like Casimir forces, virtual particle emergence, and vacuum polarization. These phenomena demonstrate that the vacuum is an active, structured medium, not an empty void. Chronoaether unifies these effects under the principle that vacuum energy density varies with temporal boundary geometry. When Casimir boundaries create differing temporal conditions across a structure, a temporal gradient forms. This gradient can manifest as force on the microscale, inertia modification on the mesoscale, and gravity-like curvature on the macroscale. This multi-scale influence underscores the versatility and power of the Chronoaether concept. The reciprocal conservation of energy and temporal density is a cornerstone of Chronoaether. When time is compressed, energy density increases. When time expands, energy density decreases. This law underpins phenomena from inertial mass to event horizon behavior, and even the theoretical possibility of propulsion without reaction mass. Chronoaether's compatibility with relativity is crucial. It has no preferred inertial frame and cannot be detected by velocity, ensuring it does not violate the principles of special or general relativity. Instead, it interacts only through gradients and phase differentials, making it a subtle but powerful addition to modern physics. Einstein's theories eliminated absolute space, but left room for structured time. Chronoaether builds on this by proposing that time itself can have structure and curvature, independent of space. This opens new possibilities for understanding and manipulating the fabric of reality. Chronoaether enables the possibility of propulsion by creating and exploiting local time gradients. Inertia emerges from time resistance, and force arises from temporal imbalance. A craft doesn't need to push against space, it simply needs to fall into a self-created time gradient, fundamentally changing our approach to movement and propulsion. The existence and nature of the medium, Chronoaether, are now rigorously defined. The vacuum is a time-structured field, Casimir effects are temporal boundary phenomena, and energy and time are reciprocally conserved. This definition sets the stage for the mathematical and experimental advances to come in subsequent chapters. AEON STRATUM Prime stands as a visionary yet disciplined framework. By combining bold theoretical innovation with rigorous scientific structure, ASP is positioned as a credible foundation for future research, experimental proposals, and advanced aerospace systems. Its evolution from speculative narrative to structured theory marks a new chapter in the quest to understand and harness the fabric of reality. With the foundational ontology of Chronoaether and the stratified architecture of ASP established, the stage is set for deeper mathematical exploration and experimental validation. Future chapters will introduce the operators, tensors, and practical designs that could turn these revolutionary concepts into reality. The journey into the heart of time-structured vacuum physics has only just begun.